Hello guys, we have a replay analysis today that I wanted to share because I was watching Winter Gaming in the game through bar. I was watching the game and this game turned out to be very interesting to me, at least. It was there's so many things happening in this game that I just can't help but not like talk about it and try to analyze what's going on here. So at the start of the game, I was spectating in this game. So I was sort of like memeing and making jokes and like drawing on the map and saying what I thought was going to happen during the game. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to turn that off. But during the video, you're going to see a lot of these white lines just appear because I will be like my past self is drawing on the map of what I thought was going to happen. So at the start of the game, I drew most of these lines based on the skill distribution. Because yellow and red are the high skill players on the left side and blue and green are the high skill players on the right side, I was anticipating something like this to happen where mid might hold here because, you know, it's only just green. But I didn't realize, but he was actually a little higher, so if green was here, he would have held here. But green holds here, right? I was thinking they would break through bottom, but actually blue goes through here, so a little different than expectation. But red and yellow certainly do this what I expected them to do, which is to break through top here. Now we're gonna start and play this map, or start the replay, and I will go kind of fast at the start, but I will slow it down as soon as things heat up. On this map, which is called Dark Side, there's two center circles with about 1,000 reclaim each in them, and I noticed in the replay actually these take a long time to reclaim. They don't reclaim that quickly, so you actually need to hold the ground for quite a while. So at the start of the game, you know, they're just gonna do their bases and they're gonna send units in. We'll slow it down once the units start fighting, because there's a lot of actually small things that happen that are like really interesting in this replay. So this is both a replay, this is like a replay analysis plus like a semi-cast, or it's like after the fact cast. Okay. So we got ticks coming in from purple. Like this is the first thing, okay? Ticks coming in, ticks going out from yellow. Red has his grave robber and his 3 grunts going to get the reclaim. So he gets there first. But if you watch this, I'm just keeping an eye on the ticks here. If you look at this number, it actually drains really slowly, like really slowly. So much so that the grave robber over here is able to get to the front line before he even reclaims an entire piece. Meanwhile, these ticks from purple come to the back and just pick up a mechs, which is great value. And they start fighting over here. So I believe this grave robber dies to the grunt. Oh yeah. See, things happen so quickly that I forgot to mention that a grunt ran like this, and there was a piece of debris here, and these grunts were positioned like this, so they actually shot and destroyed the 150 debris here. So there's actually less. See, there's significantly less metal than what was reclaimed. So there's 150 that was destroyed earlier on. In this replay as well, at the bottom, blue and his bottom players are able to take this bottom crater. So it's roughly equal, but I will talk about some of that later. These ticks just continue harassing the backline. I think because I've been seeing this happen a lot more. Players have started to do this a lot more, and they start microing units. So yeah, they also pick up a constructor eventually here. Yeah, I think it's starting to become a good idea to actually start with a guard tower, because your commander can't actually shoot past its own buildings. So it's very hard, and this tick starts getting reclaimed, but there's a little fancy micro. He runs around, the guy changes his reclaim order, and then the tick gets the gets the constructors. Yeah, really funny. Okay, while that was happening, even though they took damage, like they lost the mechs, they lost the constructor, which hurts a lot, they're able to secure the reclaim here, so they get like 800 or so. Meanwhile, at bottom, you know, I think the right side wins this. And okay, I will speed up just a little bit till I notice the next big thing, which was that, okay, about here, I'm gonna slow it down to 1 speed. You can actually notice that right side has better compositions. Look, they have control over these areas. The bottom team has only like this one good composition. His comm is way too far from the front, so that means this comm is gonna be able to get turrets up, this comm gets turrets up, these comms get turrets up. This is a little slow, so they're gonna hit this midline. And if you notice, actually, I'm gonna pause it even. These comms are just completely ignoring this entire front. There's like only a few grunts here. These guys are gonna march right in for free. Yeah, I'll play this. This replay is going to show you like a bunch of like little things, I guess. So I want to express the like importance of getting your comm to the front when you're playing the front line. This is mostly a lane map, so everyone's going to be frontlining, and if you're frontlining, you need your comm on the front. See, he's able to get these turrets up because he can build power. He has so much build power on it, he can secure the ground. Up here, because their comms are forward, they have a more forward midline here, which means that these two mexes are on their side, whereas this mex could have been onto that side. So it's basically like moving forward denies area and denies mexes to your opponents. So it actually gives your team a slight advantage. If I click on these, it's 19 versus 19 versus and 16 versus 16, right? But once this mex is built, you know, it'll be a little better for the right side. Actually, I think mathematically it's equal. 19. No, it's definitely in favor of right side. Purple is definitely higher right now. Yeah. Also, this mex was not taken. So if this was taken, mistake here. If this was taken, then most certainly this midline would cause the right side to have an economic advantage versus the left side. I do want to say that during this game, multiple mexes were not rebuilt, and you should 100% take all the mexes on your side. There's like so many out here that are just not taken. There's like over here, they're not taken. You should always cap your mexes. That is a important lesson to this. But yeah, back to 1x speed here. This rabbit guy, he gets like a midline like this, a little awkward, but like it was pretty good on. I think from my point of view as a spectator, it looked pretty good for bottom or left side for having a midline like this. It just means that the right side doesn't have access to as many mexes, and he gets access to this mex. See, it's like the difference between that midline and this midline is like 4 mexes goes to the right, whereas a midline up here means like 1, maybe 3 go to the left. Yeah, getting good comm positions is very important. Your comm needs to get to the front as fast as possible, not spending time building all these mexes in the back line here. All right, so they start making a line in the sand, and all this static defense and this like sort of stale gameplay here is why you always need these rocket bots. But I'll just speed this up here. Look, actually, no, I'm going to talk about this. The comms are just completely missing here, okay? That means these guys are now able to just walk up, and that arrow was already drawn by me because I noticed that while I was spectating. Look, he's able to just build a turret right on the mex, and now he's just going to be an advantage now. I would have liked to see that both of these comms do a little more turret creep, so they build like build a turret here and then here and then here and then here. So they just sort of go ping pong like this over and out forward, and it just makes a solid defense line like this. You can see that what I'm drawing here actually. My passo, I was drawing how right side basically push to these lines here, or they can, and look at how much territory that gives to the right side. That's just gonna put them onto the advantage position. Whereas down here, it's like this, and maybe a little forward like this. And so there's a hole here. So I was like thinking, okay, the player here, whatever player here can actually run in and hurt this player up here. But I noticed that actually he can also run in like this because all these defenses are more bottom sided here. So there's actually 2 holes kind of. Yeah. And this actually happens, the second one, this hole. And I want to say that run-bys are really important in Beyond All Reason. They are the meta. Ignore armies and just fight bases. That's how you win. Yeah. But I mean, like from this positioning, you can see that they just have more mexes on the right side. They have access to more, except for the bottom. So I was thinking, okay, they're gonna win in these top 2 areas. But it's a little surprising because you would think that on the mexes at the top would cause the right side to win, but I think the skill imbalance caused the left side to win here. So despite having the good position, it's not enough because these are just higher skill. Overall, this was a mid-level skill. There's some high players and some mostly medium players. So these positions out in the front sort of force the left side to be aggressive to try to take the ground back here. Also, I wanted to mention, when I was watching the replay, This guy moved his comm over here to build this plasma turret. I think this might not have been the best idea, because if your comm was on the front, maybe he could suicide and prevent all of this from overtaking this location. Also, like, he's got no units right now. It's 8 minutes in. He's got the metal for this, so actually it's not too bad. It's just that I don't think this is at this moment. I don't think this is like a great idea, because I mean, like, from his perspective, right? What does that turret hit once it goes up? It hits actually absolutely nothing once this goes up. There's no enemies in sight. It's not gonna like deny area that well. His teammate has to defend up here, so like and this entire corridor is just completely like open, so it doesn't really achieve all that much going right here. Like if Pink here was like in this area, I would think that'd be fine, right? But building it here doesn't really accomplish much, and it distracts you from building units, which lets Purple get 2v1'd actually. He's forced to fight alone, and he's got turrets at the bottom here, but like, it doesn't feel great when your army is fighting the other side's army alone. Like, it's still a 2v1 regardless. Yeah, like 2 armies are now fighting him. It just creates too much pressure, and that's going to cause top to lose. The skill on the left side definitely higher, I would say. Okay, man, there were so many things happening in this game. I really have to go slowly, actually. Okay, so then this starts losing. I think this is just it's not like, I think this is just like the inherent randomness to the game, where like you can't really predict everything based on positioning, right? There's just so much information, and every situation is always so chaotic that it, like, you can't really predict every single action. So my prediction here of him holding here was like maybe not so correct, but he does like go back and forth here, right? So somewhat correct, somewhat wrong. Oh, I didn't notice this. see, like, there's so many things happening. I don't remember when this run by got in, actually. He might have run like this, I think. But the run by gets in, right? Another run by gets in here from this angle, which I talked about earlier. So there's 2 run bys simultaneously. All right, I really have to go slow. There's 2 run bys simultaneously. These guys are not microed right now. Purple is dealing with a 2v1, mostly a 2v1 here. He cleans up the turrets, and then he just gets focused, right? Because he's focused on building turrets up here. He's not building plasma bots this late in the game. These guys finally start getting microed. These guys eat the entirety of this base alive, actually. And Blue was going T2. Actually, how did he get that T2? It was probably gifted to him from this player right here. But he loses the T2, which is not good. So his entire lead was sort of like stopped. Oh, 3 maxes and a lot of damage here as well. So like, I mean, like, I want to like, when I talk about these things in these videos and I focus on them, I'm trying to tell you why these things are important and why you should pay attention to them, so that you can like make it, so that you can implement it in your game, so you can try to get good compositions, and then so that you can try to do your own run bys, or if you're not doing run bys, hopefully convince you that you should do run bys, because they're actually doing a lot of damage. We got 3 mexes here, some power generators, and this entirety of the base, and the T2 T2 constructor, I think, at least taking damage, if not getting destroyed. I don't remember. There's so many things happening. So yeah, those powers are getting destroyed. This base is destroyed. That T2 is gone now. Yeah, a lot of damage here. So this ally is not helping Purple in the army battle, and so he's taking a beating, and soon enough he'll break. Yeah, you definitely want plasma bots. The medium plasma bots. They're called light, but I think they're medium. These ones are more like heavies. It's more like 1 tier above. So this entire base got destroyed, which is unfortunate for Blue. Yeah, this game is so many things are happening in this game. So yeah, green and purple are still going back and forth here, but I want to bring attention to the middle here. Look at the positions of the 2 comms here. These comms should have been on the front line here, but they weren't, so now these guys were able to move forward, get forward bases actually, get turrets and all the mexes, which means they start to snowball even more. And I also want to state how Swallowbug here actually does like an amazing job. He actually used these grave robbers perfectly, and he reses all these things and gets like a huge army off of it. He's able to sustain himself throughout an entire like campaign basically just by rezzing these units. He actually played well above his ranking. 18 player, more like 20x player right here. You're rezzing all the things. Yeah, slightly bad fight because I don't know, you just get rushed down by the turrets. But look, up top, what did I say? He gets double teamed by the red and yellow here, and this guy finally starts helping him, right? But it's way too late, and he's got the wrong unit to deal with these because these are pounders, which completely destroy pawns, right? So it's just way too late for this. This was sort of a waste of units, although Pink did come in here, but it only has like 10 kills, which at this stage in the game, it's not all that much, not that great. You spent 16 or 1300 on this, and you're not able to deny the push or like get 20 kills or something. Yeah. Also, I at this moment as a spectator, I draw all these like circles because there are uncapped mexes at 12 minutes in. Can you believe it, guys? Uncapped mexes. Seriously, don't do that. You want to do that. You want to cap your mexes. Okay, Blue does a great job of holding this area, which I was thinking he would get annihilated because he lost his base, but you know, this player here is caught up here. I think he gets assisted from Green here, so he's able to hold the bottom circle here. Meanwhile, Green is actually doing a counter push, and this is why you tech switch into thugs or the light plasma bots. It's because they actually do really well in these pushes. They get very good trades. Okay, so now we got a situation where we got to push through here. We got to push through here. We got stalemate here actually because there are turrets, and he's not pushing up with his anti-turret option. I believe there should be artillery here. Nope, there's no artillery, so he actually could be pushing here. But they're just playing passively here, so it's stalemated. But they're actually double pushing here. Two players are pushing up here. Yeah. So what's going to develop out of a situation like this is actually assuming... Maybe I'll let it play for a little longer, and then it becomes a little more clear. But yeah, I'm going to say how Swallowbug actually does an amazing job here. I would have eaten all these units, just reclaimed, but rezzing was actually the correct option because he has so much army to defend these bots. He plays this perfectly, actually, very perfectly. Okay, so in a few seconds, actually right now, it's very apparent that top is collapsing. So what's going to happen is red and yellow actually need to do this. They need to go and they need to keep pushing and eat all the players here, right? In a few moments, green is actually going to win his side here. And what that is going to cause is that it's going to cause a base race situation because we have two opposite sides that are the opposite teams are pushing in opposite areas. So this tan color is finally able to push back. So yeah, this is what I said. It's like back and forth here. So it's mostly stalemated, right? Okay. In just a moment, green will win, and I'll talk about this base trade scenario. So the left side is now winning the top, right? They're destroying the base. And now this guy is able to start fighting as well because of this giant hole. Yeah, you gotta plug the hole, you gotta get your comms to the front. These two comms here should have been at the front to stop this. Okay. Okay, it's becoming increasingly obvious actually right now. You can look at the army count and the concentration and tell that green has the favorable base, or favorable army right here, and he's winning right now. He's also rezzing behind it still, so you know, he's about to win his bottom, or his mid line, actually, this is mid. He's gonna win mid, meanwhile top has already lost. And when you're in a situation like this, I think it's time to talk about this, okay? You're in a situation like this, it's actually a sort of what you would call like a Ouroboros, I think, tail-eating snake. The teams want to do something like this, although in this case, it is more like if you imagine 6 squares, right, like this, where there are 2 players in each square, approximately, like so. These are kind of bad squares. they sort of do this. They take this out, and then you move to the next one to take it out, right? Green did this, right? And he's moving down to take out the next square. That's the idea. That's what you should be doing. You should actually be taking out squares as quickly as possible. So what happens is green needs to go down and take out these squares, and then he's going to have to run this way and take out the last square. Meanwhile, these guys, if they actually keep pushing, they can amass a ball of units here, take out one square, and then move on to the next, mass a ball of units here, and then take out the next square. So they have less distance to travel than green. So you would think they would have advantage, but you actually need to complete the snake. You need to do this. You need to actually commit to the eating. So this is like an eating contest, I would say, right? Although it's more like shaped like this, right? For this game, but I have another video on this where I talk about how I lost to Winter, but it's the exact same scenario where you actually need to complete the snake and you need to win the eating contest. You need to keep eating bases. The team that stops eating bases loses first. So what you'll see is that red and mainly red shifts his attention from up here to over here, and that's just not what I think he should have done. I think he should have kept fighting. I think that would have made the game more even. I don't think it guarantees he wins because it's like over time it's increasingly hard to predict what happens, but I think it would have given him a better chance if he took out this half of the map. He left like 2 bases up, which is a lot of income to the right side. Yeah, so you see that these res bots are actually doing an amazing job keeping this fight going and is letting green to win the mid here. Oh yeah, we also got some units here, right, from this teal player. Okay, yeah, green is now winning here, so it's like he's going like this, and red and yellow need to do this. Also, he actually has support from his tan player right here. So there's actually 3 armies that can do this, that can wipe out all these bases, and then hopefully that base. This army value, if you count like the army value of all the left side players here versus only these, this army value from the left can absolutely crush everything here. I didn't notice this, but there's actually a run by here, which is good. But you really, at this point, when it's a base race, you want to crush the bases. You want to wipe clean the area so that your engineers can run in, cap the mexes, and take all the reclaim from the bases. Because if you imagine, if you run and defend like this, you actually gain 0 income from the mexes and 0 income from the army that get destroyed. You don't get as much from the reclaim if you defend. Because most of the time, armies get reclaimed by your allies, or maybe like they get destroyed, or like whatever reason. Like defending, you just don't get as much income as if you take out bases, which leave behind huge reclaim fields of bases and stuff. I gotta start talking less and let this play out, because this is a decently long game. Yeah, still holding like down middle. This player had the better positioning and was able to hold here. You know, it was just holding here. But you're in a base race scenario, and you have to commit to the base race, because if you run your army back to defend this, I believe red is going to do that real soon, or you commit APN and resources to it. It distracts you from clumping your units right here and taking out these bases. And I'm making an exclamation point saying that they need to do this here. That was from the live game. But look, he spends resources on the left side here, and he's also sending his fiends over. Now look at the distance from here to here, and see that it's actually the same distance. And if these get here, it's going to be way too late by the time they get here, right? These units are going to get onto the base before these fiends can get over there. So you might as well have them clump up here and be able to get damage, because there's actually nothing defending here. There is like very little to defend, especially when this player is considered. There's like nothing to defend. He's got this like very rogue pocket of army, but that can just be eliminated by fiends and these other T2s. I think you sort of have to just let these bases or these players below you deal with it. Because I don't know. It just sort of seems like if you spend the time to defend, you lost momentum here, you lose a lot of momentum here, and then this maintains its momentum, able to destroy the bases, and then it comes up and gets you later anyways. Look, that the base was destroyed, that base was destroyed before his fiends were able to micro over there. Right? Completely destroyed. Right? Completely destroyed before his fiends are even able to get there. It's just hard to defend because of the distance. It's far from your front line, so like it's not worth it in my opinion. I think these attacks failed because they were also not clumped. He's causing defeat in detail. His team had the advantage in the numbers here. They just needed to coordinate and attack a base together. Look at all his units as well. They're all so spread out as well, so that this tiny clump of units are able to actually take out all these units because they're not clumped. This Tan player has the right idea. He's clumping his units a little bit, and he's able to get the damage in, whereas Red needed to clump his units in and fight with his team and take out these bases here. Admittedly, this base was not that important because the player had moved down and started rebuilding and starts ignoring this area. So this player thought this base was gone for, but they left it stay up, and that's 6 metal per second that's just allowed to stay up for the right team. Like, no, maybe like even more because there's like back mexes here that are just allowed to stand. Not taking these mexes also means the red player or the yellow and red player aren't able to get the stuff. And now I know it's really, what do you say? It's like your first instinct is to defend, but it's just, I think you're better off if you're attacking. Like these fiends are so out of position over here. He has, I do think actually the Air Force here was the right move. The Air Force can defend. They're the one like type of unit that can defend and then attack immediately. So I think Air Force to support was the right idea, but I don't think sending these fiends over was the right idea. It just takes way too long here. Yeah, the Air Force was 100% correct to defend, but I think sending all your units, like your slow Sheldons over, when they could have grouped here and started taking out these bases. The green player, look how he keeps just a tight clump, and he just wipes base after base. So he's just going from base to base in this like eating contest. It's an eating contest, and you gotta eat. Like the longer these bases are allowed to stand, like the worse it is. Like there's 20. Is it 20? I think it's like 20. I don't know. It's a decent mass per second from these straggling bases that you could wipe out here. But these units are just so far from the front here. He's like finally sending them over, but like now he's gonna deal with the next wave, and I think you're better off letting your ally deal with it here. Look, we've got him just going from base to base to base to clean up here, and then he's just gonna slam back up like a meteor. I was talking about it in the game. I'm like, Red needs to focus on the right side, and he needs to. You need to do the eating contest like this. See, like it's hopeless to defend the bottom half, so you might as well get the damage that you can in, because look, there's still no defenses here. There's only streaming reinforcements, but the more time you give them, the more time you give them for like not eating these bases, the less time you clump them, the more time you give to the opponent to allow them to get a defense force here, because they're still occupied here. They're still occupied with this bottom player. But the moment you like where's the red clump? Where's the left side clump that's eating them in this sector here? Like, look at all these mexes that are just allowed to stand, that are just going to the right side. Yeah, like I do want to say that this advanced armed Mex was like a hero unit, actually. 18 kills, and it's a lot of T2. Look at all these Sheldons and thugs. Kind of a misplay on this player. These advanced armed Mexes only have a range of 650, while these Sheldons actually have a range of 850. So he could have just sat his Sheldons right here and destroyed that. Yeah, so a bit of a misplay, right? If he had done that, he could have kept eating. If Red decided to not send his reinforcements that way and decide to group his units over here, he could take this base and then immediately start taking these mexes and bases over here. In fact, he probably would have been able to start eating by take this base by now because of all these units that were spent running this way and then running back this way. That's the same length as just going like here and grouping and then attacking. See, now blue is able to wipe here with green, and that means his army can now actually return to defend now. So these guys missed their opportunity to take out some of these bases here, which would have restored this to a roughly 2 versus 2, maybe 2 versus 2.5, right? Because this base, it's got the production here, but none of the power. It's got very little power here, if nothing here. It's got some power here. I think he builds some power here. Yeah, it's 2.5 bases. It would be these guys versus these guys. Yeah, actually, there's a small base here, so it's 2.5 versus 2.5, right? Look, now these guys are coming to defend, but I'm gonna keep saying this. If he had fought in this area, okay, he would have gotten. Just a moment here. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, he would have gotten these bases, these mexes, and the reclaim here, which would have sustained him to defend for this fight. So you send your first army to fight that way, and then your reinforcements can defend. Admittedly, though, there is a huge army for green, a lot of stuff for green. 21k. So I would say, yeah, the situation is grim, but I still think you're slightly better off if you do this eating competition, because I think these bases might have been destroyed. Actually, no, these bases definitely would have taken a lot of damage. But look, these bases definitely would have been like damaged or destroyed by now if he had committed to the right side. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, because there's so many things happening in this game, the red player was floating thousands and thousands and thousands of resources. He spent so much time floating resources. You don't want to do that, actually. I don't think that's a good idea. If you have, like, he has 6,000 now, but I think he had more than 10,000. If you have 10,000 resources, you have to spend that, either in army or eco. He didn't have enough engineers building construction turrets for way too long, so he wasted a lot of time. Yeah, he could have gotten the army way faster, had a ball that swept these bases, and then used his reinforcements to start building defenses or units to defend this area. It would take a lot of time for these units to get here. You know, there's a physical time to this. That's like your own defense line. It's just the time it takes for this green player to eat all these bases and then get back up here. That gives you the time to take this ground, get the mexes, get the reclaim, build your production, get your units out, and then defend that. And you want to, in doing so, you effectively complete the snake. Eat the bases. That's a higher priority, is what I'm saying. See, this guy was allowed to live, and now he's just eating your reclaim bots in the back here and your straggling reinforcements. And like, if these were a wave of fiends that just swept through, like, he would win this battle. Like, he would win that sector, like, really much better. Yeah, it's just the feed in detail. Like, this one grunt or fiend. Like, yeah, fiends are great, but like when you run them in one like this, no, not good. Same over here. You're running them in. I'm telling you, like, to red, you're running them in one at a time, not good. He's got a huge clump that causes the feed in detail. You had, like, the massive, or like, the eco advantage, kind of. But this is exactly what I talked about. This front is now freed, and now the blue player is free to defend now. You're completely cut off from eating anymore. You should have eaten these bases when you had the time. Yeah, so don't float resources, and complete the snake, get the ground, get the mexes here. I mean, just how much like metal could have been capped if you had engineers getting all these mexes up here. That being said, I am harping a lot. I'm like criticizing the left side here. It is really hard to figure out these things and like to actually do that in game because you're so stressed out that like it's 100% natural to want to defend this because this is literally death on your doorstep, right? Your allies are now tapping out, so you know, it gets increasingly harder. If you had taken out these bases, your allies might have had more morale for this, but you know, sometimes games are just tough and you make small mistakes that compound, and maybe sometimes even the mistakes weren't even mistakes and there was nothing you can do. So maybe maybe you can learn something like this in your games. Like I'm talking to like the audience. Like maybe you can learn something and try to not try to learn something. I don't know. You can take whatever you want from away from this. This is just what I noticed. I've played. I just want to talk about this. I've played a couple games where it was like a lane map, and we're in a very similar situation where bottom is winning for the enemy, and we're winning for top, and my ally starts going T2. And what happened is my tanks started failing the next assaults. They weren't able to bunch up because they were missing reinforcements from my ally player. And we weren't able to keep eating. And so the bottom team was able to clump up and just start eating. And we lost because they just did that. Meanwhile, we got halted up here, which is like same positioning, same thing. Just these clumps of units. It causes defeat in detail because I know he has like the superior eco right now. He had probably more units produced in total, ignoring the resurrected units. If he had bunched all his units and took a fight, he could do a lot more damage than if he sends them in these very, very sparse clumps. He's just spread too thin, and he didn't take the bases, he didn't take the ground, and that means he loses the eating contest. He stops eating first, and then he loses. That's what I saw. I mean, it's not always true. It's not like that this, if you, it's not always true that if you commit to the eating, you always win. It's just a trend. It's just a pattern that my brain picks up on. Yeah. I'm sorry I'm repeating things all too often. I'm drawing like, yeah, this is game over. That's my circle that I draw, as a spectator. Yeah, and now blue was able to come up and now poke from the right side, and I drew these two circles that were coming in. It's game over at this point. Let's just speed up here, why not? Yeah, it's game over. Your time limit is over. Because, yeah. Okay, I just wanna, let's just do a review of like some of the things we saw here. Okay. Get your good comm positions, okay? Get good comm positions by moving the comms to the front line here. So these guys were able to just go like this because there's no comms to contest. This guy was able to hold here because there was a comm. The comm was here and was able to take the circle for the right side. The comm positioning for the right side gave me the impression that right side would win because they had the initial advantage of economy, right? But the skill advantage of yellow and red here were able to win this top lane. Which started, and the hole here allowed the right side to win, right? And that triggers a base race scenario because now you're destroying these bases here, right? And you're destroying the middle bases here. That's a base race. Once you're in a base race, you got to start eating because this is a super hard to defend front. This is basically like opening another front for the mid players, right? It forces them to either run back and defend or commit to the push. Same thing with the bottom players. It forces them into two directions, right? So you want to keep pushing. If you defend like this, that just means that they only have two fronts while you have like three fronts. Or you have you have two fronts where they have one front, right? You have this weird empty space with these straggling players here that are rebuilding. Yeah. So eating contest, base race, whatever you call it. I like eating contests. You wanna keep eating. You want to clump units together to create stronger armies because it's called defeat in detail, right? Defeat in detail is when you have a larger force, but you lose because the enemy has concentrated their force in a localized area, causing your units to fight in a bad trade. So if I have 50 grunts like this in a long line, and the enemy has 20 tanks like this, and they just attack right here, only a third of the grunts are actually able to fight in this battle. So that 50 grunts becomes something like, I don't know, like 20 or something, or less than 20 grunts versus 20 tanks. The 20 tanks wins this battle, and then they are able to win this next battle if you continue fighting in this line. If you F command this way, and you fight these tanks like this, you'll lose. That's what defeat in detail is. So you gotta have your units in clumps. Otherwise, they attack in sparse units and they don't get much damage. It's good for run-bys. Now, there's a difference, right? A punch through is when you want to take the ground. It's you want to take the ground or destroy a base, but run-bys are for when you want to get economic damage and you don't care if like they're able to like win the ground. You just want to get the mexes. That's when you're able to, that's when sparse units are actually good because they can go hit multiple mexes at once. Okay, so we learned good compositions. You got to cover your front with your comm. You got to eat contest. You got to spend your bank. There was a huge bank in here. You got to increase your production and get those units out so you can avoid the defeat in detail situations. You got to spend your bank. You always got to spend your bank. Floating resources is, I don't think is that good. Like 8,000, 9,000, that could be, I mean, like do the math. That's like 89 thugs. 89 thugs. You could have them right now if you do it. I know you need the power for it, but you just spend like 10% of that on like power generators for 1 minute, and then in the second minute you get all the thugs. So you basically get like 80, 90 thugs on the field right now, and that would just like change the dynamics of the game. Same with this. If you had, I don't know, earlier it was like 10,000 or something like that. If you had 10,000 worth at the stage when green was down here, and you just put that 10,000 into fiends right here, that would have been like game over for the right side. There was no defenses here. The blue was still bottled up in this area, and the only defenses would be these bull production, which is going to be sparse because they are not clumped, because they are constantly reinforcing. That means you win the defeat in detail situation. The enemy has more forces, but you have concentrated your forces on the enemy's bases. You have a third front line, so one front line, two front line, third front line, and your forces are concentrated, theirs are sparse, and you win. Okay, I kind of rambled. I kind of did this video like kind of messily, actually. There were a lot of things that were going on. I forgot one more thing. You got to use your res bots. This guy did it excellently, man. I was so impressed when I watched this, how many bots he resurrected. Him resurrecting the bots was like what let him win the mid doubly so. Like it was such a good play. I really need to copy this. I really need to implement it into my own gameplay. All right. Yeah, so as I was saying, there were so many things that happened in the game. Like this, 8v8s, there's so much data happening. It's very hard to understand what is happening. And so it takes like a really intuitive like outlook to try to understand what's going on. So hopefully my perspective helps you. It's actually not one based out of logic, really. It's more intuitive than logical, actually. So what I'm basically saying is I'm speaking out of my behind when I give you this information. It's just my subjective, intuitive thinking that tends to be correct most of the time. Like I said, you do this eating contest, it's not guaranteed you will win, but I think it does increase your chances. It's sort of like, I think this is an emergent property where when there is base races, it's usually the team that continues the base race that wins first. It's hard to tell if it's causation or correlation or causation, but I just want to point out that yes, it is the base eating players that tend to win, it seems. Yeah, I mean, like, look at this. Like, they're getting some of these mexes at the front here. Yellow is moving up with his mexes here. He's able to start capitalizing on this. There's like no mexes here, although he did get pushed back. But like, if red had pushed to this line here and taken these mexes, that would be a much different game. If he spent the 10,000 bank, had the fiends run in all together all at once when there is a very sparse bull production, that would have been much different. Much different. Even though he wouldn't have as many units to defend here, if he had only committed shurikens here to defend, that might have been enough to give him enough time to push to this position and force units either to defend. Like all these reinforcements that were here like minutes ago wouldn't have been at the front here. They might have been defending, making this defense a little easier, but just slight things. I'm going to repeat again. This move might not have won you the game, but it might have given you a better shot, is what I'm saying. Also, remember to spend your bank. There I go again, repeating the things I've already said. I think it's time to cut out this video. I think it's getting long enough. All right, time to go. Goodbye. Hopefully this is good enough for people to watch on YouTube this time. All right, goodbye.